Hello, everybody. My name is Franklin, and today I'm really excited to talk to you about other English as a second language comprehension strategies that work. And I think that you're going to be really interested in this. My name is Franklin, and this is first1000hours.com. Don't give up on your language learning marathon. You can make it. You can make it through your first 1,000 hours. All right, and so again, the reason why I want to talk about English as a second language strategies that work is because I want to show you a different way of how people can learn a foreign language from day one without having to speak. And so I want to share with you some more things I have liked about Connie Warner's English as a second language class and give you practical examples. So we're going to go into that right now. All right, so this is example number 8. And this was Connie's story about her grandparents. And this is what she WhatsApped me. She said, I'm going to talk about my grandparents too. These are photos of their farm. I think my students will connect more to the English with more personal stories, especially Brazilians. They are very group / family oriented. And so again, I'll show you that picture right there of Connie's grandparents and the farm and all of that. And so she had another way for the students to learn more about her, but at the same time be able to learn English. And so I think it's just a win-win situation, and she just became more relatable, more relevant by sharing with them a story about her grandparents. Okay, so I want to share with you another example, and that's example number 9, where in her English as a second language class, she talked about Thanksgiving and talked about the history of Thanksgiving. And right here is a box where she was sharing with me where she stored her Thanksgiving cards and all of that. And she actually made 121 different cards to illustrate her Thanksgiving story. And so I just want to read to you some of the WhatsApp she shared with me. She said this: next week is the last class before Thanksgiving. So I've got a history story about Thanksgiving planned out. And so I want to ask you a question. How many people think of incorporating history into learning a foreign language? But that's what Connie did. She likes history, and it was really relevant, especially at the time that she was talking to her class about Thanksgiving, because it was really close to Thanksgiving as well. All right, let's go ahead and continue. I'm starting to work on a flashcard story for the history of the Pilgrims. I'll share about their religious persecution in England, fleeing to Holland, and finally coming to the New World. I told the whole Thanksgiving story with 120 pictures / flashcards, boiling it down to the most basic elements, making the cards. I spent about 15 hours. Wow, that's a lot of time that she dedicated for just one class, but she was committed to making her story very comprehensible, very relevant, very interesting, and she was willing to put in whatever time that she needed for her students, and that is a dedicated teacher. All right, let's continue. English class went very well. I had 13 students. We almost ran out table space. I went through my Thanksgiving story, 121 cards in 30 minutes. Now, this is amazing when you get to find out about what actually happens as a result of people coming to Connie Warner's English as a second language class. This is what one person said during the break. One lady that had lived here for 16 years, lived here in the United States for 16 years, said that she was starting to finally understand more and more English outside of the classroom, aka the real world. If that's true, then her progress is going to start snowballing fast. And so you have someone that came to her class for 16 years, but finally was able to start noticing English and understanding it because Connie's class was done in a very comprehensible way. And all right, let's continue. I kept asking her students, this is what she said, I kept asking her students if they understand me. And they think it's almost comical now because I ask so much. But that's my sole job, to make English understandable one way or another. So they like the history of Thanksgiving. A few said it helped them understand what the holiday is about. So, again, You have these Brazilians that are here in the United States. They might have just come to the United States and all of this. They have no clue about Thanksgiving, but they are able to, again, learn about the story, and then they can understand the significance. So there's even more of an incentive, I believe, to pay attention in class, to really understand what's going on, not only for English, but because they are learning other things as well. Okay, let's continue. So because of what Connie did at that, her being the volunteer English as a second language teacher for her Portuguese beginner class, people learned about what she was doing about Thanksgiving, her Thanksgiving story, and the pastor learned about that too. And so she was able to share that Thanksgiving story at a Brazilian church breakfast on Thanksgiving. And so I think that she enjoyed doing that as well. Okay, so I want to share with you another story. This is example number 10, another language learning story. If you would remember, in English as a second language comprehension, English as a second language comprehension strategies that work, part 2, I shared about how Connie was talking about how she just failed her Spanish class, and that was one of her stories. But now she was sharing with the class about how she started learning Portuguese. And I just want to read to you her story, and you'll get to see another illustration of how her stories go. And while I read this to you, you have to realize that everything that she was talking about, again, was made comprehensible. And I'll show you more about that as we continue in this story. So let me go ahead and pull this up so I can read to you the story. And this is what she said. In 2016, I was 38 years old. I was on vacation in Florida. I have to say, Florida is a beautiful state. By the way, I am from Florida originally, so I like that state. Okay, I went to a horseback riding school. The teacher was from Portugal. His employees were from Brazil. What a beautiful language. It was like music for me. I returned home. I was determined to learn Portuguese, but no Portuguese class existed. How can I learn? I am alone. I used the internet. I tried Duolingo. It was okay. I made a friend online named Arnaldo. We talked on Skype. He knew no English. I knew no Portuguese. He would talk for hours. I understood nothing. He could write messages to me on Skype. We had a translator. One day the translator broke. He started yelling, "Do you understand? Do you understand?" No. I thought he was mad. At night, I would study Portuguese. I felt sad, worried, depressed. Duolingo wasn't enough to learn. I needed to understand my friend Arnaldo. And in this story, when Connie was talking about a translator, I believe it wasn't a real person, but she was using software to help her understand her friend Arnaldo. And so I just want to show you again that picture I had in the presentation so you can get an illustration of how she was using cards to illustrate different parts of the story that she was sharing. And so on the screen, hopefully you can see my mouse. I'll just wiggle that a little bit, but to the top left, you can see like someone being sad right there, a picture being sad, and I think that's probably where what she used to illustrate she was depressed. And then you can see the question marks, and that would illustrate when she was confused. You can see right here where there was music and someone that had this, like the heart on her eyes. That's where when she talked about Portuguese sounded like music to her ears. That was the card that she used to illustrate that. And then she had right here Skype and then question marks as well, and that could illustrate confusion. You can see at the top middle, there is two people basically on screens. And so that could show an illustration of how she was communicating to Arnaldo. And then she just has other things as well on the screen that illustrated other parts of the story. But you get an illustration, an idea of, again, how she could make this language comprehensible. And I think it's kind of funny, but I thought that I could just do this presentation in one time and I could share with you everything I wanted to about Connie's English as a second language classes, or at least the things I wanted to share. And I had to save this in a file, and you know, I thought I was going to be able to share everything today, but I still have more things to share with you. And so I believe I'm probably going to share more of those things at a different time. And I also want to let you know that I have on the screen right here a playlist of other things about making foreign language classes comprehensible from day one. And then there's also a video that YouTube recommends, and I hope to see you in the next video.